Everyone talks about how amazing Nashville is. There are 6 things that shock people after they move here. And if you don't know these before relocating, Nashville can be a tough adjustment for some people. Today, we're talking about 6 reasons you might not survive living in Nashville, Tennessee. And if you're thinking about moving here, relocating here, or buying a home in Middle Tennessee, this is one of those videos you absolutely want to watch before you make the move, because Nashville is incredible, but it's not for everybody. And some of these might actually surprise you. Let's start with the biggest one. Nashville is still growing, and the region keeps changing fast. According to the Census Bureau, the population of Nashville-Davidson increased from about 690,000 in 2020 to 705,000 in 2024 population estimate. Meanwhile, the State Data Center projects that the 13-county Nashville Metro could add around 563,000 residents over the next 2 decades. So even in just a few years, you're seeing meaningful growth in the city itself. And when you zoom out to the broader metro area, the growth becomes even more noticeable. So what does that actually mean in real life? It means more traffic, more development, more cranes, more construction, and neighborhoods evolving faster than people expect. If you visited Nashville 10 or 15 years ago and you came back today, there are parts of the city that look completely different. Neighborhoods like East Nashville, the Nations, Germantown, Wedgwood, Houston, they've all experienced major transformation. For a lot of people, that growth is part of what makes the city exciting. But if you're expecting a slower paced, quiet southern town, you might experience a little bit of culture shock. And speaking of culture shock, another thing that surprises people when they move here is the price of housing. Nashville used to have a reputation as one of the best real estate bargains in the country. And compared to places like Los Angeles, New York, or Seattle, it can still feel relatively affordable. But prices have definitely climbed. If you look at actual sales data, Redfin reports the median sales price in Nashville is about $450,000 in 2026. So depending on where you're moving from, Nashville might still feel affordable. Relocating from smaller towns or rural areas, the price jump can definitely be noticeable. And this is where the nuance really matters. Some parts of the metro are still very affordable, but certain neighborhoods inside the Nashville proper can easily push $700,000 to $1 million or more, especially for newer construction homes in highly desirable areas. That's why understanding which neighborhoods match your lifestyle and budget is such a big deal when people relocate here. But housing prices aren't the only thing people notice once they move here. So far, we've talked about 2 things that catch a lot of people off guard when they move to Nashville. First, the rapid growth of the city. Second, the changing housing prices. And honestly, those 2 things alone can surprise people when they relocate here. But coming up, we're also going to talk about the weather, the tourism scene, and the one thing that almost everyone notices once they start commuting around Nashville. Before we jump into that, if you're planning a move to Nashville, we actually put together a free Nashville relocation guide that can save you hours of stress and give you confidence in your move. You can grab that in the description below. Hey guys, my name is Josh Anderson, and on this channel we talk about everything you need to know about living, working, and playing in Nashville, Tennessee. So if you're thinking about moving here, relocating here, or buying real estate here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. All right, let's get back into it. Now here's one people underestimate all the time: the weather. Nashville actually gets 4 pretty distinct seasons, but sometimes it feels like we experience all 4 in the same week. Summers here are hot and humid. If you're moving from somewhere like California or Colorado, the humidity is usually the biggest adjustment. Then winter rolls around. Nashville doesn't get huge amounts of snow compared to northern cities. According to the National Weather Service, the city averages about 9 inches of snow per year. But when even a couple of inches of snow or ice hits the area, things can slow down really quick because southern cities just don't have the same snow removal infrastructure as places up north. And then there's spring storm season. According to stats, Tennessee has been affected by $116 billion weather and climate disasters between 1980 and 2024, including 68 severe storm events. So strong thunderstorms, flooding, and tornado warnings are something residents here are familiar with. Most people adjust to it pretty quickly, but it's definitely something to be aware of if you're relocating to the area. Another thing people don't fully realize until they live here is how big tourism is in Nashville. According to the Nashville Convention and Visitors Bureau, the city welcomed 16.8 million visitors in 2023, and forecasts showed visitation rising to 17.5 million in 2025. And tourism projections show that numbers could climb to around 17.5 million visitors annually in the coming years. That means bachelorette parties, Broadway crowds, concerts, festivals, sporting events. pretty much all year round. Now, if you love energy and nightlife, this can actually be one of the coolest parts of living here. But if you're expecting downtown to feel quiet and relaxed, that's probably not gonna happen most weekends, which is why a lot of locals choose to live just outside the urban core. They're still close enough to the city to enjoy it, but far enough away to avoid the busiest tourist areas. Let's talk about one of the biggest realities of living in Nashville. It's traffic. If you've watched any relocation videos about Nashville, you've probably heard people talk about this. And honestly, there's some truth to it. As the city has grown, commuting has become a bigger part of daily life. According to the Census Bureau, the average commute time for workers in Nashville-Davidson is about 25 minutes. Now, compared to cities like LA, New York, Atlanta, that might not sound terrible. But for people moving from smaller towns or rural areas, it can feel like a pretty big adjustment. And Nashville's interstate system now carries a lot more traffic than it did when many of those highways were originally built. So corridors like I-24, 65, and I-40 can get pretty congested during rush hour. The good news is most locals eventually learn the alternate routes and back roads, but it's definitely something to consider when choosing where you want to live. Here's the twist. The sixth reason you might not survive living in Nashville. You might not end up ever wanting to leave. Because despite the growth, despite the traffic, the tourism, there's something about this city that people connect with really quickly. It's the live music, it's the food scene, it's the neighborhoods, it's the sense of community. And for a lot of people who move here, Nashville ends up feeling like home much faster than they expected. So let's recap the 6 reasons you might not survive living in Nashville. The rapid growth, rising housing prices, the unpredictable southern weather, the tourism crowds, traffic and commuting, and the fact that you might fall in love with the city. None of these are deal breakers, but they are realities of living here that you should understand before making the move. And when people know what to expect ahead of time, the transition to Nashville becomes a whole lot smoother. If you're thinking about moving to Nashville, relocating here, or buying real estate here, my team and I help people do that every single day. So if you have questions about neighborhoods, pricing, schools, or where you should start your home search, feel free to reach out. Call, text, email, or drop a comment below. And again, if you haven't already grabbed it, make sure to download our Nashville relocation guide in the description below. It breaks down everything you need to know before moving here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.